Representative Dingell.
The woman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in strong opposition to H.R. 1. As one of the few members who serves on both the Energy and Commerce Committee and the Natural Resources Committee, I have seen almost every version of this package as it was crafted. Hearing after hearing and markup after markup, it has been clear. I love my Republican colleagues, but they are more focused on advancing partisan bills that will benefit the oil, gas, and mining industries while selling out landmark environmental laws in the name of permitting reform. Instead of advancing meaningful bipartisan solutions for the American people that will help us achieve our climate goals and solidify our energy security for future generations. For months now, my Republican colleagues have called for policies and permitting reforms in Congress that would strengthen our energy security. I have consistently been willing to work with my colleagues, and I still want to and am willing to work with my colleagues in this pursuit. But what we have here is not reform. Gutting the National Environmental Policy Act, otherwise known as NEPA, is not permitting reform. Weakening enforcement under the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and other critical public health laws is not permitting reform. Granting mining companies the abilities to take minerals from public lands without paying a dime to taxpayers in royalties or helping clean up these toxic sites afterwards is not permitting reform. Forcing federal agencies to hold oil and gas sales on public lands, even if they're not needed, is not permitting reform. And repealing the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, a $27 billion program I admit I helped author to deploy clean energy projects nationwide and cut greenhouse gas pollution, is not permitting reform. And it will not strengthen our energy security in any meaningful way. To my Republican colleagues who continue to refuse to believe the science or to acknowledge we are facing an existential threat from the climate crisis, just read the United Nations' most recent IPCC report from 2022. This legislation instead puts polluters, profits, and pollution over the American people. It is that simple. In order to truly attain meaningful energy independence here at home, we need a net zero energy economy built on solar, wind, hydropower, batteries, electric vehicles, even nuclear. What we cannot do is expect more drilling for oil and gas to solve all of our current and future energy woes. And I do understand bad weather. The last 4 weekends, I've had snow, ice, and I've lost my electricity every single weekend. Listen, we're at the beginning of a transformational shift towards a clean energy economy, a shift that is now accelerated due to the historic investments and legislation Democrats in the Biden-Harris administration were able to enact into law over the last 2 years. This transition will likely present the greatest permitting challenge in generations. However, we must permit and build in ways that do not harm communities or our environment. That is why Democrats enacted historic legislation last Congress, the Inflation Reduction Act, that directed over $1 billion investment to increase staffing and resources across federal agencies for conducting efficient and effective environmental reviews and permitting. The bill today doesn't have real solutions to high energy costs, and it's going to drive up the deficit, not according to Democrats, according to the Independent Congressional Budget Office. I'm pragmatic, and I'm seasoned enough to know we got a lot of work ahead. And if we can do it collectively, Republicans and Democrats, it can serve as an important tool to combat climate change, strengthen our economy, and protect our national security. But again, let me be clear. We must not entertain proposals that roll back landmark environmental laws across the board, including NEPA, so we can line the pockets of big oil. As I mentioned at committee, when John Dingell and Senator Scoop Jackson originally authored and advanced the National Environmental Policy Act, it was done thoughtfully through a meaningful legislative process to build broad and bipartisan support. This is the process that we need. NEPA, we can't gut NEPA. It was brought about to include community, to care about the economy. We've got to work together. I remain open to working with my Republican colleagues on bipartisan energy security and permitting reform efforts. I hope we can. My colleague, the chairman, knows I want to, but I still do not see this legislative package as a serious proposal. I don't want to be dependent on China more than anybody else does for our batteries, or Russia or any other country. We need to do it in the good old USA, but we can do it with ingenuity, innovation, technology, and protect our environment at the same time.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Strongly oppose, and I urge my colleagues to oppose this bill.
Reserve the balance.